This is my literature final project media presentation. My name is Alec Tuttle, and this is everything I've learned throughout the semester. For the literary devices, I chose the short story The Most Dangerous Game. So for my point statement, I said, throughout this class, I've learned all types of literary devices and their need in literature, how they can add different views to a story. Literacy devices can add an entirely new perspective to the readers. So, since Connell is always foreshadowing in his story The Most Dangerous Game, it's very filled with suspense and it keeps the readers on the edge of their seat. And so that way it keeps the reader's attention. So, for my first quote, I said, "Hardly. Even cannibals wouldn't live in such a god-forsaken place. But it's gotten into sailor lore somehow. Didn't you notice that the crew's nerves seemed a bit jumpy today?" Connell 1. This quote shows that the foreshadowing that something is wrong with the island and something is going to end up wrong, and it shows that his crew can sense that there is a danger ahead, and that it builds suspense because you know that something bad is about to happen. And then, who cares how a jaguar feels? Perhaps the jaguar does. So this shows that you are not really going for how to feel what the jaguar does. You're just doing. You're not really caring. So for the characterization and character motivation, I used Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. So my point statement is, within this class, I have learned how authors can use characterization to better help readers connect with characters or to better understand stories. Characterization also helps find a character's personality and appearances and potentially give a backstory. So in the book Of Mice and Men, there is a whole lot of characterization because you find out that he's a very big person, but he's very small in the head. He has some issues, but it doesn't stop him from working towards the dream of having their own farm so he can raise rabbits and just live by themselves without working again. So for my first quote, I said, "But I wouldn't eat none, George. I'd leave it all for you. You could cover your beans with it, and I wouldn't touch none of it." So this is talking about ketchup, and when they are going, before they get to the ranch, they are eating ketchup, and they're talking about all the things that they could have. And they came up to the subject of ketchup, and George says something to Lenny, and Lenny gets a little upset. So Lenny goes and says that he wouldn't take any of it. He would give it all to you because he would rather you have it than Lenny had it. So this quote shows that Lenny is a nice person and he's willing to help George over himself. And then for my second quote, I said, "Come on in and set a while. Long as you won't get out and leave me alone, you might as well set down." So this is when Crooks says this to Lenny. It shows that the nicer side of Crooks, even though he had a bad childhood and he had several injuries that prohibit him from experiencing everything, and he saw that in Lenny. He saw that he struggled in some things, so he was being nice, which he doesn't do very often to other people. So he invited him in, and they talked for a while, and they you found out that Crooks isn't just a rude, mean person, but you found out that he also has a caring side. So that is some characterization because you found out through him and Lenny that they both have a nice side even though they both had a bad childhood. So for my connections to the real world and connections to yourself, I chose to use Romeo and Juliet. So for my point statement, I said, after learning about how stories can connect to the real world throughout books this year, I realized that you can understand books more with connections to real life. This can also get a reader more involved in the story. So when Romeo says that Juliet was his only love sprung from his only hate, he was talking about how that they were Montagues and Capulets, which were born mortal enemies, but there was one of each, so they fell in love, and they couldn't really express it out loud because if they did, they would be frowned upon and like disowned potentially. So this can happen in real life because say that there could be a family feud in these days still, and the two children could become best friends or lovers or whatever, and but they can't really express that because if they did, they could get in trouble and stuff like that. So, um, another quote was, "Oh, teach me how I should forget to think." These quotes show that something that could happen in real life and how Romeo and Juliet found ways to be in love despite being born mortal enemies. This is used to make connections because you can predict what will happen in the future of these long stories. So when they fell in love and then they went off together and they got married, nobody knew about that but Friar Lawrence. So it was a kept secret, and then when Juliet's father wanted her to marry Paris, she couldn't do it, so she devised a plan with Friar that she was going to take a sleeping potion, which was supposed to make her sleep for 36 hours, and then she would wake up in the tomb with the rest of her family. But Romeo didn't get the memo, so he shows up and he thinks that she's dead, and he says, "By death's kiss, I shall kiss you one more time." And he kisses her on the lips, but then he takes the poison, which can be connected to the real world because you could think that something is real and do something rash about it, but then it turns out that it cannot be real. But once your rash decision is made, you can't really go back on that and change it. So for the importance of theme, I chose to do my choice novel unit. I had the book A Parrot in the Oven, which I wanted to do the Hunger Games, but I forgot to bring it in. Sitting on my desk at home, blah, blah, blah. Long story. You gave me this book to read because I couldn't bring my own in. So my point statement was, I learned that with the theme of a story, it can change your whole perspective. Theme is also a key part in understanding your story. Theme can be an easy thing to find, and it can become obvious when you see it. So Manny thinks that he doesn't have enough respect as it is, and he doesn't have everything that he needs in his life. So he does everything to try and get more popularity. He goes to parties, tries to get a girly friend, tries out wrestling, and then in the end he resorted to joining a gang, which the gang does a lot of crimes and stuff that a normal person wouldn't really want. So my first quote is, "In my family, we're taught to touch the hand of the one who has died. So at the wake, when my mother called, I walked up toward the casket, and in the full bloom of my family's eyes, I touched my grandma's hand. A lump of salt caught in my throat, closing like a fist, as I studied the bark skin of her face, each crack sealed with perfect makeup." So this shows that Manny wanted the respect of his family. He didn't want to look like a coward in front of them because he wouldn't walk up and touch the dead person, which I don't blame him personally. I wouldn't really want to touch a dead person. But I can see where he's coming from, where family is very important to him. So the theme of my choice novel was that family is everything, and once Manny comes back with the gang, one of the ending quotes in the book is, "Place I felt that I had come back to after a long journey of being away, my home." So he walks in from being with the gang, and one of the gang members robbed a lady of her purse. So Manny's chasing after this member, and he realizes once he's chasing him, that there's not really a point for him to go on and continue to chase after him. So when the police stop and they ask, "Were you the one chasing that man?" He says yes. The police ask where he went. So Manny gives him directions, gives the police directions on where he went. So he walks into his house and he sees his sisters laying there with their hair sprawled out on the couch, and he walks over and he pets them, kind of brushes their hair out of the eyes, and then he says that he had like everything he needed there. He sat in his father's lumpy chair in the clean room that his mom had spent so much time cleaning and his dad spent a bunch of time destroying. He realized that he had everything he needed right there. His family, his sisters, his mother and father, and a roof over their head. He realized that he didn't need to join a gang to get respect. So the theme was pretty much that family is everything towards a person, and it can change a whole person's life. So, Spee, this is the end. I just wanted to let you know that I really enjoyed your class. If I have you next year, I'll put forth some more effort, because you and I both know that I did not do the best that I could have. Just wanted to let you know that, and your class was by far one of my favorites. So, alright, I'll see you around. Thank you for watching.